and welcome to Ops Up Inside Your Head, the conversation for ops leaders who want to focus on their habits and what make their organization truly amazing. We meet amazing guests from around the world of operations who've been there, done that, built the habits. These conversations are about unlocking what makes them truly brilliant. Today, we are joined by the brilliant Gary Britton, Director of the Arakan Group. Gary helps small businesses and their operations deal with HR, ISO, health and safety, and all the things that come with managing a small business. That's what gets Gary up in the morning. And I'd love to say, hello, Gary. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. The sun is shining, so I am happy.
Yeah, no, it's changed for the last couple of days, isn't it? It's been pretty miserable. Winter hit us with a vengeance there, but the sun is back. That's good.
The sun is back. Yeah, you're right. The autumn has arrived with a vengeance for sure. So let's get into it. Tell us about who you are, where you're from.
Okay, so I'm a Bristol born and bred boy. Grew up there. My dad was national serviceman, military.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was through choice. I think it was obviously national service for him.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that was never really talked about in the house. But it was just, for some reason, all I ever wanted to do was to go into the services. So in those days, many years ago now, used to have local recruiting stations all around the country, and you could just rock up there and go in and take the test. And if you passed the test, you then went off for further selection. Me being quite naive, just thought it was the army. So when I went to selection and they said, right, you've got all these choices, I didn't have a clue, didn't have a Scooby. So the recruiting officer said to me, do you want to go and sit in the waiting room and have a little bit of a look at some of the brochures and see where you'd like to go? And always being an inquisitive type of person, growing up, really enjoying the science, the physical of making things. At school, did project technology and motor vehicle technology. So like to understand how things work and why they work the way they work. And always asking the question, why? Why do we do it like that? Can we do it like something? Can we do it like this? Can we do it like something else? So I chose to go into the artillery. And then at 16, when I left school, as you were allowed to do in those days there, went straight into junior leaders. So what the army does is allows people to, their forces people to do what they call education. So normally if you went in 18, you would do that education as you went along throughout your military career. But then going in at 16, you could do your education first before you joined your regiment at 18. So I went off to Bramcut and did my education there. So again, it was lots of science, lots of understanding why things work. They actually called it gunnery science. So it's, I know there's a lot of rivalry within the military. You know, they call the artillery drop shorts and one thing and another. But there's a lot of science behind delivering the package to where it's supposed to go and do what it's supposed to do when it gets there. So there is actually a lot of science and things like that, include the weather, wind conditions, and how you set the gun up itself to fire. So there's what I call it gunnery science. So I enjoyed all that behind it. And we had some very good instructors. And again, it's one of those things you become inspired by the people that you see. And they've been in significant amount of time. They had a lot of experience under their belts, and you could see the value of experience. It's not like going off and going to university. You need your life skills, and that's the same in the military. Sure. You need your life skills and experiences to pass those on to others. So passing out from there, very much like Top Gun, you have a big parade at the end. And then when you go back to your barracks, you get given your envelope where you're going to go. You had no idea until that point where you were being posted to. So I guess I was still quite naive in how all that worked, bearing in mind you're only just about 18 at that point. Posted to Aldershot, Air Mobile, which was really, really exciting for a young lad. Lots of boys' toys, I call them, to play with. Lots of guns, lots of helicopters, aircraft, flights, all sorts of stuff like that. Being on standby to go around the world at short notice. I can very vividly remember a Christmas where we'd got all the equipment ready to for final inspection before we were allowed to go off on Christmas leave, only to find the battery commander come down and say, sorry boys, your leave's cancelled until you repaint all the equipment. It's all got to be painted in sandy colours, brown colours, and then I'll be back to inspect. So we spent the next 24 hours repainting everything by hand. So there was no or very little health and safety in those days.
Yeah.
And so we repainted everything into those colours, and then the battery commander came down and said, okay, now you can go off on leave, but when you go home, you've got to report to the local police station, tell them where you are, and if you go away from there, you have to go to the next local police station. And so well before mobile phones, well before. So you actually had to go and report to the police station so they could get the phone call to come and knock on your door and tell you to go back if you needed to go back, for that sort of stuff. Okay. So it was really exciting, and we did some really exciting things within the UK and other places. Again, all the things that, as a young lad, they're the kind of things you dream about. You are. And then we went to Germany, spent a short period of time in Germany before getting posted back to the UK, to Shrewsbury-on-Ness, which is an experimental ranges for the military. It's now run by civilian contractors, but then it was run by the military. And so that was my heaven, because you got to work on all sorts of new bits of equipment, understanding how it works, trying to look to improve it, finding out where the failings are, so writing reports as well. And you didn't just work on stuff that you would normally in the army deal with. So we were dealing with aircraft as well, helicopters, torpedoes, mock-ups of ships and stuff like that. So again, it was really, really, I wouldn't say mind-blowing, but definitely mind-expanding, as into there's other things in the world besides where you are, and understanding how all those things work as well and how they all come together. And that was the first opportunity of working with civilian contractors as well, and the challenges they bring.
And I can imagine that there's a whole world of experience that falls back into this ops world. So fast forward to now. So what are you doing now? So if that was the start, where are we at in this story then now?
Yep. So when I left the military, had to find a job, as you do. So I went to work at the airport. Again, one of those environments where it's high risk, high adrenaline, working there. So I worked there for 11 years, and then throughout the rest of my career, changed jobs mainly into the construction industry and the plant hire industry. So again, giving me a really good understanding of the challenges within those industries and how those industries really are driven by the end user. So very customer focused industries. You know, if you want a piece of equipment on the mall for 4 o'clock in the morning because you're setting up for the marathon, it's got to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning. So enjoying all those logistical challenges and bringing all the parts, all the moving parts together, I really enjoyed. So that kind of led me to, okay, now a point in my life where I can now do that for other people, by understanding all the moving parts, who they interact with, who has a part to play in that, and bring that really to the small to medium-sized businesses, because you tend to find that those businesses are very insular. They've grown up or organically grown to the point where they are now, where they're more than 5 people. They're looking to expand, or they're looking to tender. So they're up against what we term the big boys. So they're up against the big construction companies, or up against the big plant companies or construction companies, who use a lot of big words and try to confuse everybody with smoke and mirrors and all that sort of stuff. So where we are now is through our experiences, we're able to go into a small to medium-sized business, help them with their tender support, help them understand some of the jargon, demystify all the stuff like accreditation, ISO 9001, 14001, FORS. We support companies with FORS, accreditation, maintaining their accreditation, operating their fleets through transport management. And so really being able to supply them with the one-stop shop for half the time stuff they don't even realize they need.
Yeah.
Cool. So until you go in there and you start looking at and talking to people, And it's about getting right under their skin and understanding what drives them in the morning, what drives them to get up in the morning. We've had clients where we've gone in and they said, like, can you help us do this? We were told this new computer package would save us and it would do all these wonderful things for us. And you go, that wasn't what your problem was. Your problem was the people. Normally, 9 times out of 10, it's the people, because they're not driven by the same passion as the business owner is driven by. So by understanding that and understanding their business, we're able to support it in the real world and actually offer real support. And no magic bullet is going to fix everything for them. It is going to take some hard work. And so what we do with people, the business owners, is we work with them and support them through that journey to get them to where they want to get to. Nice. And so sometimes that's supporting them, and sometimes it's supporting the rest of the staff as well.
Okay, really interesting, really interesting. And where you're working with these companies, what is it you're seeing in these leaders who have these operations? What are you seeing that's making them successful in there? What do you see?
I think a lot of what makes we have quite a wide customer client base, so that we've not niched at all. It's about helping people over the next hurdle. So what we see is a very passionate and driven business owner who's extremely good at what he does. He becomes frustrated, with where his business is at the moment, because not everybody has the same passion and the same drive as they do. So what tends to happen is that somebody, let's take a mechanic as an example, will start off, they'll buy a van, they'll get very good at what they do, and then suddenly they'll get asked to tender for a bigger contract or to support a bigger company. So suddenly then they're looking for a workshop, they're looking for additional staff, and they're looking at all the health and safety and everything else they need to do. And to them, because they've not come from a corporate background, that's quite a scary place to be. It's I don't understand this. If you don't come from a corporate world and there's no one there to hold your hand, it's very scary. So by going in there and not literally holding their hand, but going in there and supporting them through that process, it makes it less painful for them. If we could go and get a book off the shelf that says run or start your business today and be very profitable and happy in 5 years, we'd all be millionaires. That's not the way it works. No. The way it works is the same as in the military. It's life skills. It's all the things they've learned as business owners. It's all the hurdles they've been over. They've got their business to where they want to get to, and now they want to make the next step. And that's the scary next step, and that's where we are.
And they don't know what that next step is, do they? Because they know cars inside out, but the running of everything else around it is completely alien to them. And it's that putting in those processes that support them to do the thing they're good at is what makes them successful. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Because again, there's no magic bullet, there's no magic book on the shelf that says up until this point you can have all these things in your head. You get to 5, you've suddenly got to have everything written down. You've got to have first aiders. You've got to have this and that. No one tells anybody those things. Mm-hmm. And those things are kind of key to health and safety and to developing and running your business going forward. So by going in and helping them understand some of that and saying, look, because you will get people that will say, well, I've been running the business for 4 years. No one's ever asked me to write anything down, or no one's ever asked me to show them anything. And it's just explaining that process to them and saying it's either because you've got more staff or you're now in a position where you're going to be tendering for more work or bigger work. Say you want to work for a big highways company. That company, once you support or submit your tender, will still then come down and do an internal audit with you. So it's making sure that you can demonstrate all those things. So it's your policy, your procedures, your accreditation, your risk assessments, your method statements, your induction for your staff. That's a key thing. We find every time with small businesses that there's no formal inductions.
No. It
tends to be a cup of coffee and a quick look around. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So I've got a really good idea of what you sort of do as a business. I'm interested in you as well, because I love your story of you went into this military service, you've come out. So what do you do to keep you fresh? So how do you keep you in prime prime operation status?
So again, I think it's working with the individual businesses because we've not.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
That's what I'm saying. So every day is a different day. Every day is a challenge.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer that you've got to learn something every day, no matter how trivial it is or how interesting it is. You've got to learn something every day. So that's me. It goes back to when I was much younger. I want to know how and why something works. And so if I don't understand, I've got to go and look for it. So it's that inquisitive mind that keeps me fresh, keeps me active. We quite often say that we're like time lords for the businesses because we'll spend the time doing the research and doing the homework, if you want to call it that, for the business. And so that's that inquisitive mind coming back out again and wanting to know, is there a better way of doing something? Is there not necessarily a right way or a wrong way? Is there a more productive way for the business as well? You can go in and you can say you need to spend thousands of pounds on this, when in reality you just need to take a common sense approach to it. So very much a common sense approach to business, common sense approach to how we deal with issues, bringing the military standards and values to how we address people, how we address problems, how we support people. And that's really, I guess, what gets me up in the morning is what's the next challenge? What's the next thing going to be?
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Okay. So on the day-to-day in the Arakan Group, how are you running the business?
So on a day-to-day, obviously, I would say 90% of the time we're actually out with clients. So we're on site with them and we're supporting them. Again, one of the things we hear quite regularly is it's so refreshing to see someone. We've never seen our consultants before. It's always been done remotely. And I don't know how, as a consultant or a management advisor or any of those things, whatever you want to call yourself, you can advise someone if you're not actually there. You have to go and support the business. You have to go and spend time there with them. You have to get under their skin and they have to get under your skin. But it's about understanding what actually happens, because you could go, let's take an ISO accreditation as an example, buy one off the shelf, or you can go, this is how I think this works, and you write the policy, you write the procedure, the director signs it off and goes, yep, that's perfect. And then when the auditor turns up and looks at it and go, okay, can you just talk me through this particular process now, say, a customer inquiry about booking a vehicle service as an example, and you go out there and they go, oh no, that's not how we do it. We do it completely different to that. So you already know that there's a problem there as an auditor. So it's why it's so important to get there and actually spend time. So we'll typically spend anything from 4 hours. So normally it's 4 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours we'll spend with a client on a daily basis, and then writing up reports and stuff like that afterwards.
Okay, cool. And then if you're spending 90% of your time out with clients, how do you make sure you get the most out of yourself in that 10% of time in your working week? How are you managing that? So, because that's not a lot of time to have like a real effect in your own business. So how are you managing? What do you do in your own business to make sure that you really get that nailed?
Yeah, so spending a lot of time out with the clients, you've then got to do the follow-up to that. So spending time in the office. So we have 2 offices, 2 Arakan offices. We have some people that support us as well. But we also find that the clients themselves actually just want to deal with myself or the other directors. So it's getting some of that other admin done by the support that we have within the business. So try to get at least one day in the office a week to do that kind of opportunity to finish off any reports and anything else we need to do, but then also look at how we're then going to develop the business and move the business forward. So whether we're looking at training opportunities, the new office we have has a meeting room and a training facility. So we're looking to now up the game for training as well.
Okay, and what are the habits that you picked up during your service that you still apply in the business? So are there any routines you apply to your day? Any must-haves for you to make sure that your day goes smoothly? Yeah,
I think it's all about doing your research in advance and preparation. There is an army saying about I won't use the language, but
Yeah.
performance. So you've got to do your homework first. You've got to do all, if you're going to see a new client, there's nothing worse than turning out. And we've had it where people come to us as well. And you go, what do you know about the business? And they know absolutely nothing because they haven't looked you up on the line. They haven't looked at your Facebook or your social medias or your LinkedIn presence. They haven't done any of that. So doing your research before, it goes back to the military. It's understanding what the issue is, understanding what the objective is, and then doing what you need between those 2 points to achieve that objective. The other thing, I guess, from the military is cleaning my shoes. So I will polish my shoes before I go to a client, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, the office is in the middle of a building site," or it makes no difference. You've got to. It's that first impression, and that goes for your car as well. So cleaning the car, make sure everything looks as it should, it shows you as a professional person, and that you do care. You care about your personal appearance, you care about your company appearance. So we're always in branded, black and orange. Everything we do is branded. The cars are clean. It's all about that first impression when you turn up at a client.
Nice. Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is absolutely, it's about the be prepared for wherever you're going. And then when you turn up as your best self.
Yeah, that's it. Always be prepared like a good Boy Scout. I was never a Boy Scout, but the principle is the same.
I think you went a level up on the Boy Scouts by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think so. But it is key to know what you've got to be professional. You've got to be prepared, and you've got to be able to communicate well with the individual and at their level. There's no point going in and baffling them with science, because that will get you nowhere. So it's understanding the level you're at.
Cool. Got it. Okay. And then this one might be a bit more tricky, this question. Is there a habit or something you're currently doing at work that you need to retire that you think is actually detracting from the work you do?
I don't think we do anything that retracts from the business. I would guess, like all business owners, you spend too much time on it. It's having that time to go. It's actually home time now. You've got to go home. You've got to spend time with the family. Quite often, if you needs be, because you're driven by your clients, you could still be writing at 11 o'clock at night. You've got to, and it's a really difficult for all business owners, I think, to step back or actually have a finished time and go home.
Interesting. And are you all right to dive into that a little bit? Because it's that the working late because the client needs me to work late is always something I find very interesting, an interesting conversation, because I always think there's ways to reduce that. Are you thinking about ways to stop doing those write-ups late at night?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I think certainly when you first start the business, you've got to spend the time. You've got to put the time in. You come to a point where you can then start asking for help. So looking to bring other people in to support the business where we are at now. So we have a number of external consultants we can use. We have some admin support we use. But that's a big step. That is a really big step, to trust other people with your baby. That's exactly what clients are doing with us. They're trusting us. But for us then to trust somebody else with our baby is very difficult. And it's about finding the right person to support you. Again, we find occasionally when we go out to businesses, they've employed friends or they've employed family members, and that always doesn't work out well. I'm trying to be very diplomatic about what I say there, but it never works out well. But it is the huge trust thing to say to someone, can you type this up for me now? Can you do this? Can you do this? And that reduces some of the workload. So you don't go home necessarily and still be there at 11 o'clock at night. I think we've now got it down to about 8 o'clock, and it's working its way down to a normal time. It just depends, because it's what we do is very much driven by policy and process. There comes a certain point within, say, ISO accreditation, where you've got to do a lot of that, and then it tails off again. So it's peaks and troughs, and it's managing those peaks and troughs, really.
Okay. And are you, like, 8 o'clock still quite late? What's the aim? What if you would say, right, I'm going to aim to get home or have the laptop shut At what time? What are you aiming for?
Yeah, so we're aiming to get down to what people would call normal hours. So anywhere finishing by 4 and 5 o'clock at night. That'd be done and dusted. And I'd get a lot of the time that is what happens in reality. But the relationship we have with our clients is they can phone us up at any time, and you know, whether or not we answer the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning is another matter, but they can phone us up or contact us at any time because they've got a problem. They will only contact you if they really need some help. So you've got to be there to help them. If you're not there to help them, what are you doing?
Interesting. Okay. Have you had you've got me going down the rabbit hole. So have you had a 4 a.m. phone call?
No, that's a good thing. But we have had the phone calls on a Sunday.
On Sunday, yeah.
But that if you're a forward-facing, supporting business, you've got to do that. You've got to support people. It goes back to, you know, you've got to go to site. You've got to meet the people. You've got to spend time with them. You know, we were over in Kent yesterday, all taking photos and organising and doing some work for a client that's got a charity event coming up. And so it's about supporting them throughout whatever they do.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. So what we normally do in this part is we then talk about sort of the habits you see of teams, and you've sort of alluded it to us slightly. So these businesses you're working for, when they say, right, Gary, we need to hire somebody, and what should we be thinking about to hire the right person into our business, into this like ops space that you're helping us with? If I was the customer, what should I be thinking about to get the right people in to get my ops right? What sort of skills am I looking for?
Yeah, so I think it's, again, goes back to that knowing what and understanding right at grassroots actually what the position is and what the business does. So understand when they say we want someone to do this, they don't really know, unless they're crystal clear, which isn't very often, about the type of person they want. So first of all, you've got to get right down, understand what they want this person to do. So you write a job description. Then you think about the qualifications that they need as part of the job description, where you're going to advertise that job. So making sure it goes in the right places to attract the right people and not get 20 or 30 people that clearly are just, you know, applying for jobs, or agencies trying to fill roles. So build that job description, the type of person you're looking for, put all that together as close as possible to what they want. And we've actually sat down with them and we've helped them sift through the CVs. And we've actually, for 2 different companies, we've supported them through the interview process because it's so daunting for them. They're like, we've never done an interview. We've never done these things. It tends to be a friend of, I know someone who can do that. Bring them in, you have a cup of coffee, you show them around, you say, this is how much you're going to pay. And if they go, yeah, that's great, you've got a job. But in this day and age, it needs to be much more formalized with that. It needs to be a job description. You need to then offer an offer letter and then a contract and all those sorts of things. People just don't do. So it's formalizing that whole recruitment process with them all the way through.
Nice. Yeah. And it's very much like I have a dark past in ISO as well. So I know the perils of you've got a gap in your business. How have you audited the skills that you need? And then how do you validate them in the recruitment process? And you can't validate them if it's Bob's mate, because Bob's mate has a skill set and they don't necessarily match your gap, do they? That is the real challenge. No,
it is. And but that's that. You've got to understand the business. It all comes back to planning and preparation. You've got to understand. You can't go to an agency, or you can't go for the level of jobs that these people want. They're looking for someone that's going to fit into a small team. I would say that's the most crucial thing. You've got to have all the skills, but you've got to be a team player and you've got to fit in with that small team.
Nice. Okay. And what else do you see in the teams that you work with that you walk in? What are the indicators that somewhere's doing some stuff that's right? What are the giveaways that companies got heading in the right direction?
Yeah, I think a lot of what happens is when you walk into a business in the very first time, you're seen as a very scary person. Particularly, we will turn up and, we always wear high-vis vests, or we'll wear whatever. So we stand out and we look like we're going to audit them and close them down or do something scary. The boss will know. Obviously, we find that normally our arrival isn't communicated to the team, because they'll go, right, just come in, have a look around, get your first impressions and tell us what's going on. And so straight away, everybody's a little bit on edge, and it takes a while to get over that. These are scary people, when we're not scary people. We're actually here to help people. So you will see some things that are really, really good, and you'll see some things that are quite shocking. It's about communicating. So it's communicating with the business owner and saying, look, Fred or Joanne or whatever else, watched her this morning. She was doing that. She was really good with the customers or clients over the phone. She was able to explain, she was able to upsell, or she was able to do these sorts of things. And it's quite obvious where you go in and you find people in positions that shouldn't be in positions, because they haven't got the experience, the knowledge, or the capability to manage that role. And they've just been called managers because they've been with the business 4 or 5 years and they've naturally progressed through, but they haven't been given the training or the support to put them into that role. And so that's quite a challenge as well. So there are some good things. There always are. There's good people out there and there's bad people out there. But they're only bad because they've not been managed or developed. They've not been given the support. And that's what you tend to find, is that the staff will say, we've not been supported at various times, because they don't understand and you say to them, well, you say you've not been supported. Well, what haven't you been supported with? They can't really explain that. They just feel that there's something missing. And then so they get to 1 minute to 5, my desk, I've finished, I'm going home. They don't understand where the business is going to, the passion that the business owner has, and all those sorts of things. So it's about educating the business owner as well, and saying, look, you need to communicate with your teams. You need to pass down your vision, where you're going to go, how you want to get there, and what part they all play in that. And some people will go with you, and some people won't complete the journey with you. And that's just a fact of life. We all go, we love change, but in reality, we don't like change as human beings.
Yeah. And what sort of leaders actually manage to ride that process? Because I can imagine you go to some places and they're not ready or willing to accept this advice. What are the habits you see of the leaders that are actually open to this change and this challenge to how they've set their business?
Certainly the people that we work with generally want the help. They've recognized they need the help. And so they will be open to that change. There will be that bit in the middle where they're, okay, I've reached out for help. You're here to help me, and you're telling me now I need to have a meeting, or I need to talk to my staff about this, or I need to talk to that about that. And you go, I've never done that. I've never formally, disciplined anybody. I've never sat down with them and had a team meeting. I wouldn't know how to address them. I've not taken them out for Christmas or an event in the summer. I've not done any of them things. And now you want me to be firm but fair. And I know that's a cliche thing, firm but fair. Up until now, I've always been friends with them. I've now got to step over that line, and I've now got to be firm but fair with them. And I would say 90% of the people we work with are receptive to that change and that challenge, because it is a challenge for them, but we're there to help them. We've only had 2 clients that won't do that, or not necessarily won't do it, that's probably too strong a word, but unable to do that. And you've got to rely on your spidey senses, and you go, okay, well, this is not going to work. So we can't support you.
Okay. And because a lot of this is about businesses that are growing, right? Someone has got something they are good at, they are the expert on, and then all of a sudden they have all this functionality, business needs. You go over 5 people, you then have to be a very safe place to work, as opposed to something that's a bit more open to interpretation. What advice would you give to someone who's at that point of like, my business has grown and I now it needs to go up a bit? What would you say to those people?
That's a really interesting question, because it's, again, how you interpret grow up a bit or man up, or whatever term you want to use in this 21st century. It's about not being afraid to ask the questions, not being afraid to ask for help, because somebody will help you, always will help you. And remember the people that helped you along the way. And certainly that's what we do. We will help the business owner, and they may say to us, you know, can you do this, or do you know someone who can do that? It's about building those relationships as a consultant with other people. So an example, somebody might have a warehouse and say, oh God, the rain's coming in, the staff are moaning about the floor gets wet. I don't suppose you know anybody that can clean gutters out at the top of a warehouse. And yeah, we do. And then you put them together, and then you can just see the weight lifted from the shoulders and the staff's shoulders. Oh, okay, the boss has listened to us and he's done something now. He's got the gutters cleaned out. It was just that simple little thing like that, and it resolved a lot of issues. So I think it's about being open, not being afraid to ask for help. I think those are the two key things.
Nice. Yeah. I think, yeah, actually that's a nice bit of clarity, because they're going from being standalone to needing help, and it might be an employee, but it also might be someone in a network that can do something for them. Actually, being open to the world is no longer just you being good at being you.
No, and we see it all the time when we go out, and especially with the sort of the garage or the recovery industry, where there's quite a lot of those people doing that job. They're very protective about their silo and their world. No, yes, they're not really competition, and you know, it's about helping each other out and then building those relationships themselves. So, you know, if you get a job and you can't do it, you can pass it over to so-and-so, and you know they're going to do it, and they're going to do it to the standard that you want it done to. Yeah. So I think it's about being open and honest with not necessarily your competitors, but the closest businesses to you that do the same thing. Don't be frightened of that. Don't be siloed. No. We don't live in a world where we're all in little silos anymore. King of the castles. Yeah,
the world is definitely a much bigger place. Like the last decade or so, the world has opened up, and actually those relationships are easier, and you can find people that do something similar that aren't a competitor, that actually help enrich what you do.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, it's interesting. We do trade shows and business shows and stuff like that, and you bump into people and they say, oh, you know, you're a competitor. No, we're not your competitor. We certainly don't see you as our competitor. You know, we're all, there's enough work for everybody to go around. There's no point being like that, because you get to the point where you need some help, and if you've annoyed everybody along the way, they're not going to help you. So it's that same thing. Be open and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need some help.
Nice. I love it. I love that abundance mindset. Okay, we're almost there. I've got some quick fire questions for you, if that's okay. Just to empty your breath. So when it comes to a difficult conversation, what is the top tip you'd give anyone?
Definitely stay calm and focused. Two things there, but they're interlinked together. So don't be sidetracked by either their excuses or whatever you've got going on elsewhere. Stay focused and just stay calm. When we talked about the Sunday conversation before, someone became aware of something their staff had done, and they're like, I'm going to dismiss them now. And I'm like, no. Let's take a couple of days. Let's gather all the evidence. Let's think about what we're going to do. It took a while to calm the boss down, I have to say. Yeah, he was adamant he was going to do that. But it's that calm and stay focused.
Nice. Love it. If you've got a tight deadline, what's your go-to habit to make sure you get across that deadline?
Well, from experience, it is about achieving that deadline. So making sure you've got all your little ducks in a row. So if it's an audit or it's something like that, making sure you've done all your prep beforehand, you've got everything done, it's all laid out, and then it's having the conversation, which I think is really key, with the business owner and the relevant staff. Because if you don't, on the day of the audit, you'll always get some staff member decides to go swing from the chandeliers. So having them as part of the team and understanding what's going to happen on the day, and that it's not scary. Be prepared and only answer the question. Don't elaborate on the question, just answer the question.
Love it. Cool. Awesome. You hit a milestone with the team. How do you celebrate?
Depends what the milestone is. Normally it's a bottle or two of champers. But then it's about going out at Christmas, and it's about going out at other times as well. So it's that fine balance now between, you know, I'm not going to say bribing people, but you have to reward them for the work they put in. That is so crucial. People are looking for that thank you. And sometimes 9 out of 10, just saying thank you is enough, because no one's ever said thank you before. Like, you've done a really good job there. And so that's important, to say thank you, however that happens to manifest itself.
Yeah, I think a thank you can go a long way at all. What book should I read?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Unfortunately, there's not lots of business books out there. I'm just trying to think what the book is. It's not going to be called The Chimp Inside Me or something like that, but it's a book about...
Oh, is it Chimp Paradox?
That's it, The Chimp Paradox. Read that.
You know what? I don't have that one yet. I'm going to add that to my list. So I always take the standard book to my list. So I'm going to add The Chimp Paradox to my list.
You knew about it already, so it's really good. You need to, because it understands your inner chimp. It's fear. It's about your fears, your flight, your fights, and all the rest of the stuff. And we all still have a chimp inside us, and it's how we manage that chimp.
Nice, cool. Last question: what's your go-to habit to make sure you get home on time?
Listen to the wife. She says you got to be somewhere. You got to be somewhere.
Nice, love it. Love it. Okay, we're just about there. Before we close, do you have any final words of wisdom for anyone aspiring to grow their business and at that point where they need to grow?
I think it's about that we said before. Approach it in a very calm manner. Be measured about what you're doing. There's no point, and we've had a conversation recently with someone who was given the opportunity to tender for another contract in a neighboring county. They were never going to do it. So they were going to put themselves through all that stress for no reason. So be measured, be calm, understand what the issue is, and don't be frightened to ask for help.
Nice. Brilliant. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all your words of wisdom. I've really enjoyed the conversation today. With that, I'm going to say thank you. And all the people that are watching at home, if you want to watch more of this, you can come find me on the YouTube channel. There is a playlist for Ops Up Inside Your Head, as well as the 5 habits of, which help you focus on different parts of your leadership and yourself as well. And it's all about helping you be a better leader. Thanks for tuning in.